Good evening, folks. Welcome to a special edition of Curveball Combos with your boys at Carolina Curveball and Hoist the Colors, ECU 247 Sports. It's going to be a fun show for you guys tonight as we are previewing a big series, not only in the Carolinas, but across the country in East Carolina at Coastal Carolina. Big series. Got three ECU alums in here, USC Upstate alum, and a baseball fan. So, boys, first, let me introduce my cast to those listening. If you're not watching on YouTube, I am Kason Romeli, Reed Tobin, Braxton Bodorf, and the man who made all of this happen, Stephen Igoe, rocking a great shirt tonight. How's it going, sir?
You give me way too much credit. First off, I helped plug you guys, but I did not start Carolina Curveball. But I appreciate you guys. Y'all do a phenomenal job. Y'all are frequent guests on obviously my show, and do a tremendous job covering baseball, not only for ECU fans who love baseball, but just across the Carolinas. So many great programs that don't get the attention they probably deserve because, in my opinion, college baseball is not covered enough. It's not televised enough. Just had to watch a damn game on Flow College, Flow Sports, so dealt with that. But look, it's always good to connect with you guys. So appreciate y'all having me back.
Of course, and I next want to introduce our newest media member, Reed Tobin. Got to experience his first ever press conference. Asked the first question at Charlotte's massive win last night over Virginia. Reed, how's it going, bud? How do you feel?
Good, man. Yeah, that was really, really awesome yesterday. Thank you to Robert Woodard, great guy. He reached out to us on Monday night, and I was fortunate enough to meet him after the game and ask some of their players some questions too. Great to meet Zach McKinstry too, ESPN Plus, and then Nick from Diamond Niner too. Great guys. Look forward to getting back there for a game.
Reed, before I move on, how nervous were you for that first question of the presser, sir, to open it up?
I wasn't. It was a little unexpected. I was not fully expecting to be going into that presser. So, I mean, was I a little nervous? Yeah. But it was a good experience for me.
Yeah, wait. How'd you wind up there if you didn't expect to go there?
Yeah. This is a phenomenal story, by the way.
Yeah, me and James were just kind of after the game. We were kind of waiting outside because we were told the players were going to come up after, and they kind of just waved us down, and then in we went. They handed us a box score. I was like, oh wow, we're actually going to do this right now. Really cool experience. So
Charlotte baseball, they need the media attention, and shout out to you guys for being there. That's awesome, man. And hey, Coach Woodard, man, hooking y'all up. So karma came back to pay off for the Niners, man.
Oh yeah, for sure. And speaking of a newish member to the media family, Braxton got to see another great press conference. In his first one as a Cliff Godwin walk-off. Stephen, you discussed it on your show. How do you feel about the walk-offs? Braxton, first of all, how's it going? And how was your first ever press conference? And it was a legendary one.
Yeah, I mean, that was an awesome moment. Obviously, the 10-0 game on Friday night was a great one to see for the first media press conference. Yeah, like Tobin said, it really cool to experience that. I think I'm really happy for Tobin that got to go out to Charlotte last night, and me and you, Kason, experiencing that last week. So just awesome that we're kind of getting our feet wet with that, and we continue to grow. And I think there'll be many more to come. And, maybe this time we'll be able to ask some questions next time we go, Kason, and just continue to cover the great sport of baseball in the Carolinas.
Yes, sir. Really looking forward to it. And we're going to go ahead and dive straight into the great sport of baseball in the Carolinas. And we're here to preview East Carolina versus Coastal Carolina, And I'm going to kind of dive in a little bit, going to bounce it around and kind of talk about last year's series ECU had versus Coastal's versus ECU, as well as the Conway Regional. Coastal made their way to Greenville last year. Their first trip, Stephen, if I'm not mistaken, cinched the Greenville Regional in 22. ECU went 1-1 versus them, correct? They lost the first one and then won the second one.
Yeah, in that regional, yep. The elimination game. Coastal was coming up through the losers bracket in that regional. They eliminated UVA and then beat ECU was riding a 22 I think 21 or 22 game win streak. I can't remember what the exact number was, but expected to win, and Coastal came out and just took it to them, and then ECU came back the next day and beat them. So that was a pretty electric Greenville regional.
Oh yeah, that was an awesome regional. Me and Reed were there. So last year, ECU wins game 1 in Greenville versus Luke Jones pitching for Coastal, who is the projected starter for Coastal this weekend, and he faced Ethan Norby, who he's going to face again. And Ethan Norby, Reed, had a legendary performance: 7 1/3, 3 hits, 0 earned runs, and 19 Ks. Reed, I have kind of joked with you about Norby maybe moving to the pen if he has another bad performance, and you have told me no each time because of this performance right here, the 19 Ks. So just kind of talk about that.
Yeah, I think you were making the same joke about it too last year. I think it was right before that game. You were saying they needed to move him to the bullpen, and then he struck out 19. I think if memory serves correct, I think he struck out. Was it Steven, the first 9 batters of that game too? If I remember,
It was at least the first 9, because I remember literally the first time through the lineup he struck out everybody, and I was just like, "What the hell are we watching right now?"
Yeah. I mean, it was something else. But he was roughed up his first 2 starts, but I think last weekend is really going to settle him in. His best start of the season. Last weekend against Rutgers, 5 2/3, 1 earned, 10 strikeouts.
And also want to highlight Luke Jones in that game for Coastal Carolina: 3 2/3, 6 hits, 2 earned runs, 3 walks, 3 strikeouts. He did get the loss in that one. This season so far, Luke Jones has a 3.55 ERA, 0-1 record, 3 appearances, 3 starts, 12 and 2/3 inning pitch, 14 hits, 5 earned runs, 16 strikeouts. So the stuff is definitely there. And also, he was pushed into this role, Braxton, because of the injuries to Fluky, and the injuries kind of all over for them. I mean, right now I have it written down. Ryan Lynch is down for them. He had a sub-1 ERA last year, 28 appearances, 9 saves, 36 Ks. Unbelievable last year. Dominic Carbone out for the year. He was unbelievable, 52 Ks and 42 innings. Hayden Johnson still down. He's expected 8 or so weeks. And then the big one, Cameron Fluky, projected first-round pick for them, is out, and that kind of moved Luke Jones into this. But, hey, he's got another Friday night versus ECU coming up.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of moving parts in that Coastal pitching staff just due to the injuries, like you said. But, they've kind of adapted with it well. I think they've pitched it pretty well. Obviously, their struggles have kind of come more on the offensive end. And we were just talking about it pre-show. I mean, they continue to bring arms out left and right, freshmen, it doesn't matter what age, transfers. And these guys have really good stuff. I mean, they've been thrown in the mid-90s, really good off speed. And, I mean, I expect them to continue to run out really, really good arms all year. That pitching coach does a great job over there for them. Yes, they're down their best arms, arguably, but they will still have really, really good arms. And I expect them to compete on the mound in every series, not just this one.
And I wanted to add just like Matt Williams, their pitching coach. I mean, I remember when he was at UNCW, and it's not a coincidence that UNCW was always nasty on the mound when he was there. And then when he went to South Carolina wasn't great, but they were good on the mound. And when he was at Liberty, it was the same thing. Everywhere he's been, they're always going to have dudes who can pitch. And going back to Braxton's point, it's like even if they're down Fluky, which we can get more into some of the specific matches, even if they're down those guys, they might not be as polished, but they're going to have dudes who can pitch. So I'm still expecting some tough at bats. The ECU's going to have a chance.
I mean, there's not a lot of teams that can be down their arguably best starter, 2 of their best starters. They got 4 of their best pitchers. Even like their best bullpen arms, righty and lefty, Lynch and Carbone, and still say like that they're going to be okay on the mound. That's a luxury they have over there. So yeah, really impressive to be honest.
And in that second game in Greenville, Fluky was lights out. 7 innings, 4 hits, 0 earned, 5 Ks. He faced Sean Jenkins, who got the loss. This was one of Jenkins' first starts. He got the loss. 2 innings, 5 hits, 5 earned, 2 walks, and 0 Ks. Steven, this was kind of – I don't know because I remember last year before the season there was just so much hype around Jenkins and just so much expectations, and this game kind of – told everybody like, hey, He was 17 years old, young guy, should have been a senior in high school. But if you look at Sean Jenkins' numbers now, which are just absolutely absurd, he did pitch tonight. These are not his official numbers, but 1.17 ERA, 2-0 in 5 appearances, 15 and a third, and 23 Ks so far this season. I'm looking right now at the box score from tonight. He had one more K, 2 hits, no earned runs in 3 innings tonight. Just this is a big moment for him, and we'll also touch on the regional in a little bit when he pitched there. But this was kind of his first game of the season last year where he kind of got hit.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost tough to compare because he's like such a different pitcher now. I mean, he obviously is still the same guy, but he was 17 then. He's still only 18 now, but like the maturity, the compete factor, he just looks like a different guy on the mound. He's gained about 20, 30 pounds. And, last year he was predominantly like fastball and kind of a normal slider. And this year he still throws what's, I guess, still technically a slider, but it's almost more of a cutter to, bring up a Zach Root-ism, a slutter, as he would call it. It's like, and it's just a hard, 88, 89 sharp breaker. And when it's not missing bats, it is getting a ton of ground outs right now. So he's probably throwing that almost at least 50% of the time. He's got a split that he can throw to lefties as well. So, like, he's really evolved as a pitcher. The biggest thing is he's not walking anybody. He's making teams hit the ball. Even the hits he gave up tonight were kind of cheap. And just competitively, man, he is competing his tail off on the mound. It just, like, mentally looks like a different dude. So he's embraced the bullpen role. I don't know what day he'll pitch on this weekend, and I'm sure Coastal will be ready for him because they've seen him twice already. They'll have a good scout on what's changed. But I think, look, if the game's on the line on Friday or Saturday and you need to put in a guy, he's going to be the first out of the pen. He only threw 29 pitches, on Wednesday nights. So I think he'll be able to come back Friday if needed. And, we'll see. Is this a series you throw him multiple times in a weekend? I guess it depends on how long he goes. It's just you don't want to push it too much this early in the season.
And on the flip side of that, on the Coastal Carolina side, this was Colby Thorndike's revenge versus ECU last year. We'll kind of get into the regional now. In the first game they faced in the regional on that Saturday night, Thorndike was 4 for 5, 6 RBIs. He had the grand slam and then another home run. Reed, you were there. First of all, let's just talk about that, and let's talk about Conway, just that environment there. One of the best in college baseball, without a doubt. I would argue the best in the Carolinas. I mean, phenomenal atmosphere. It's going to be phenomenal there this weekend. Stephen, you are going to be there. Reed, are you going to be there on Sunday?
I'll be there Sunday.
Okay. But Reed, just kind of talk about that and talk about the regional and just how much these two fan bases interact, and just we need this every single year.
Yeah, I mean, the atmosphere at the regional last year, I mean, it was sensational. I mean, we know how passionate both teams are, their fan bases. The game itself, though, that first Saturday night game, though, it was back and forth all game there through the first 6 innings. Both teams were trading leads and everything like that. And then it kind of unwinded there in the 7th inning and beyond, when Thorndike hit that grand slam, ECU kind of just fell apart. But for the most part, it was a really intriguing game.
And that was a crazy game, Stephen, because Bradley Zayak legacy game was unreal versus Riley Eckhoff, and then Carbone comes in and ends it. Now let's kind of get into kind of the road that both of these teams have taken to get here. Stephen, I'll kind of give your kind of thoughts and just kind of like a quick recap on ECU's season so far and kind of the path they've taken to get here. And then Reed or Braxton, I'll get y'all's on Coastal Carolinas.
Yeah, it's been definitely choppy, to say, if you look at it from an overall standpoint, to say the least. I mean, they're 7-5-1. You would hope for a better record at this point, but I almost think, like, if you had one more win versus Xavier or that win versus Campbell, you'd feel so much better. But you look at it, like, to me, and you can't do this obviously when it comes to resume RPI, but like, I look at the moment that Matt Lashley was inserted into the lineup at shortstop full time, and it feels like this team has kind of become more of itself then. And that was a Saturday game against UNC. They've just played really clean defense since then. They had a 2-error game against Rutgers, but that was because they pulled basically their entire starting lineup. So they've only made like 2 errors over that time, and they've just played clean baseball. They pitched really well. I think their record since that UNC loss on that Friday is 5-1-1. overall, with the only loss being to Western Carolina. Shout out Catamounts, by the way, for the win over Georgia, and Brad Pruitt, even though he didn't pitch. But it's one of those things. I just feel like this team's starting to come together, and we're seeing what ECU baseball should look like. So the Xavier series was tough. We know even despite their record, they're a quality team. ECU made too many errors in that series because they weren't, they didn't have a shortstop. They played Colby Wallace at shortstop. He's not a shortstop, in my opinion. It showed. Ever since they figured that out, they've righted the ship. You look on the mound, ECU's top end pitching right now is really, really good. To me, they've got guys. If you just look at the top arms that they have, like Jenkins is going to be a guy who's drafted in a year. Van Kempen's a senior, but he's throwing 94, 95. He's missing bats. He's going to get drafted. Colby Weber, in a couple years, he's going to be throwing in the high 90s. He'll be drafted. Ethan Orby's obviously going to be drafted. And then Brett Antolik, who closed out tonight's game, he's still working his way back, but he's throwing 95, 96. He's going to get drafted. So you got 5 guys, to me, like who have big-time stuff, and you can kind of mix and match from there. So they're good on the mound. Defensively, they're coming along. And then, the offense, they don't have a ton of power. Like Austin Irby and Colby Wallace, Jack Vogeley are not providing that power right now. But you look at their ability to get on base. I mean, they've struck out 71 times this year, but even after tonight's game, they've gotten on base via free pass 65 times. So, 71 to 65 strikeout to free pass ratio. That's pretty elite. So they don't strike out. They get on base, and now it's just a matter of can they get some more power. But I like how the team's rounding into form. I'm pretty bullish on them long term this season. It's just can they stay healthy on the mound with their top guys? Can they get a little more power offensively as the season unfolds?
And Reed, on the flip side of that, Coastal Carolina has had a similar roller coaster of a year. They start off versus Fairfield, who was in the Conway Regional. I thought that was pretty cool. Fairfield did not get their lick back, but they did play them tough. Conway did beat them all 3 games. First game 5-3, second one 5-1, third one 5-0. Scored 5 runs in each game. Did eventually lose their first midweek versus College of Charleston, and then played the Battle at the Beach and beat VCU twice. But Reed, Illinois, they lost 14-5, and it was Ross Norman that pitched that game and had an absolute, not a great outing. But Reed, just kind of your thoughts on the up and down season, and also get into the Bruce Bolt Classic this weekend they played in.
Yeah, going into the season, I don't think anyone expected them to be as devastated as they are with all their arms. But I think what I look at right now is the struggles offensively, bringing back most of that lineup they had last year. Some of those key guys, some of their batting averages right now, Walker Mitchell batting 237, Blake Barthel batting 229, Colby Thorndike, we just touched on, batting 179, Bladen Pato batting 172. Their team batting average as a whole is 185. And, they had so many clutch hits last year, so many clutch moments. I was kind of, with all their injuries, I was kind of expecting this veteran core in their lineup to kind of carry them through this tough period right now. If they can get the offense straightened out, we'll see if Hayden Johnson and Fluky come back. Luke Jones has been good for them on Friday night. They found Scott Doran. They moved him to the weekend rotation against Ole Miss, and he pitched a hell of a game on Sunday. Ross Norman, we've touched on, is really struggling right now. But this offense has to get going.
And Braxton, going into the season, they lost 4 major pieces of that lineup in Caden Bodine, Sebastian Alexander, Wells Sykes, and Ty Dooley. And also kind of what Reed said of with these injuries and needing the offense to step up, there's not much margin of error for this offense because they're going to have to carry this team at some points. And this is really cool right here that I kind of found. I'm going to name you off the extra base hits totals for both teams so far this season. ECU, 25 doubles. Coastal Carolina, 22 doubles. East Carolina, 1 triple. Coastal Carolina, 2 triples. Home runs, ECU 7, Coastal Carolina 9. So those are very, very similar numbers through the first part of the season. And just kind of like I said, the margin of error for the offense is very, very small because of their kind of having to pick up the slack of missing your 4 best pitchers. But as Steven said, when your pitching coach is Matt Williams, you're going to have guys.
Yeah, no doubt. We talk about the offensive struggles. I think you bring up a good point. In those 4 guys they lose, those are some veteran guys that they lost with a lot of college at bats. But I thought they would not lose too much offensively with what they brought back. I mean, you got Mijos, you got Thorndike, you got is it Mitchell as well that plays third base?
Yeah. I also want to touch on Colby Thorndike. He's had a rough start to the year, batting 179. He's had 7 hits on the year, only 3 doubles, no triples, no home runs, and 2 RBIs on the year. That he's a big part of that team. He was a big part of their run last year. Huge. He was you could argue the MVP of the Conway Regional, and then was huge as well in Auburn, as well as in the College World Series. So also Blagan Pato is also batting 172 right now, which is just not good. But I think he did have a good weekend this weekend in Texas to kind of boost it up a little bit. But
lost a homer yesterday as well. So
yeah,
he's starting to swing a little bit hotter of a bat.
So Braxton, those are 2 guys that they need to step up quickly.
Yeah. Also transfers Jordan Taylor, Rex Watson. They need those guys to be big in the box. I think with Coastal, like offensively, they're always going to be gritty. They're going to grind out at bats. I mean, I think back to it was the Campbell game, Reed, if I'm not mistaken, where they had like 6 straight 2-out knocks to kind of take over that game.
Mm-hmm.
Like that needs to be their identity offensively. I think it's because they're kind of similar to ECU in the fact that they're not going to hit for a lot of power, but like Steven says, they get on base, they grind out at bats, especially against these arms that they're going to see on both sides, right? Like, I think that it's going to be that type of atmosphere and that type of game in all 3 games, possibly. I think it's going to be a lot of high leverage, close games. And it's just going to come down who can grind out at bats and have a big hit with 2 outs and things like that. And I think, Coastal's done a good job of that at times this year. But I look back to the Ole Miss win as well on Sunday. They demolished Ole Miss in that last game of the Bruce Bowl, which is really good to see. So they have their moments. And the thing about a Chenal team is they're going to fight every game. They're going to be competitive in every game. They're not going to lay down. So they always have that.
Stephen, on paper, as you look at the matchups of ECU pitching versus their offense versus Coastal's pitching versus ECU's offense, just what kind of way do you lean kind of on paper going into the season? Because Coastal's going to have guys, but it's kind of unproven because of the injuries. And the offense has been there at points, and you could say the same with ECU. ECU's been shut out twice at home this season, but that they're able to string hits. Both of these teams don't have a lot of power yet. Both these teams could, Stephen, watch each of these games be like 14-12 now that we're saying this. But are you expecting low scoring or maybe an offensive pop in one of the games like we don't expect?
Yeah, I think you have to go in expecting low score, and it's still, you are going to have warmer weather this weekend, which I think should help. And with that ballpark, you could see the ball fly out depending on what the wind is doing. And I just think Coastal, like I look at some of these numbers, like Barthol hitting 229 with no homers, and Thorndike, you're really struggling. Pato, you guys mentioned him maybe getting going, and like Walker, these guys are going to get going. If you're ECU, you hope it's not this weekend. Like the track record is there. It'd be one thing if you had some of these transfers who were, not performing because they've never done it. But I think when you have guys who have done it and who have championship DNA, like you expect them to turn around at some point. So if I'm ECU, I'm a little nervous that this, it kind of lines up. You're 12 games in now. You would think they bust out of that slump here soon. You just hope it's, maybe another week or 2 down the road. For me, it's Norby on Friday. Obviously Coastal is going to have a better scout than they did going into last year. But, I mean, if he's executing his pitches, I think he's still a good matchup because they are a pretty patient team. You look at their numbers. In 12 games, they've walked 61 times, which is a great number, and they've been hit by 20 pitches. But they've been struck out 105 times, which is a pretty high number as well. So they're going to, to Braxton's point, they're going to be patient. They're going to make you throw strikes, and they're going to try to get in there and run deep counts. Now that could work the other way if you're pounding the strike zone, which we saw Norby do last year, and he dominated them as a result. So one thing I'm watching on Friday is, do they come out swinging maybe as a surprise? Because we saw North Carolina do that with big success. If you sit back and let Norby attack you, it can go the other way. So that's something I'll be watching. And then, Barthol is obviously a left-handed hitter. Thorndike as well. So I think some of their better batters are lefties, which Norby typically does a good job on. And I think that could play to ECU's advantage. And if it's Norby versus Luke Jones, I almost feel like that's one you got to win if you're ECU to feel good about the weekend. I mean, we know baseball. You never know how it'll play out, but like Friday's game to me feels like something that could swing the whole series. Just because if you're ECU on the road with your guy on the mound, that's one ideally you want.
And also to kind of shift that and kind of get your take on this, Reed, as Steven just said, you got Norby versus Jones, and then as we're kind of projecting, it's going to be Van Kempen versus Norman. And if you go and look at the numbers so far this season, Van Kempen has been lights out, and Norman has struggled a lot. And as me and you, Braxton and Steven texted, like Saturdays have been Van Kempen and Jenkins days, and no one else has pitched those days. So like Reed, I mean, just like Steven said, I think Friday is that swing game that if ECU gets it, it'll be huge in their momentum. And then if Coastal gets it, Coastal's going to have a tough task on Saturday as well. But kind of talk about those two pitching matchups, Reed, and then Kempen versus Norman, and then Jones versus Norby.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Steven. I think Friday could really set the stage for how things are going to go on the weekend for both teams. I think ECU will be liking their chances on the weekend if they can win Friday night with Norby. But, I'll be curious to see maybe if Kevin Stoll changes things up with Ross Norman struggling so much, to see maybe if he moves Scott Doran to the Saturday role after how well he pitched against Ole Miss last Sunday. So I think that could be something to watch. I mean, besides the Fairfield start, Norman, he's really had a tough time. UTSA really hit him well. Illinois hit him well too.
He did not record it out versus Illinois.
Yeah. Didn't record it out. He didn't last too long against UTSA as well. So I think that's something to monitor this weekend. And then Van Kempen, he's been sensational so far this season. Had a chance to see him last week, or back-to-back weekends, actually. And he's pitched phenomenal so far.
Braxton, your take, sir?
Yeah, I agree. I think that's like, if you get Norby, if you get the stuff you want to get out of him, like kind of like you did last year against them, you can save your arms a little bit. I think if we are in a situation where, like Steven said, maybe this is the weekend where ECU throws Jenkins twice, maybe Friday's close and they want to go to him to kind of shuffle that up a little bit. I could definitely see that happening as well. But like you said, Kason, Van Kempen and Jenkins on Saturday has been the formula for them. So if they can get game one, East Carolina, that is, I really think they could go take the series in the first 2 days. And then, who knows what could happen Sunday. At that point, you're going for the sweep. So, it's going to be really, really interesting to see. And I agree with Reed. I think Schnall could switch it up this week as well. They threw some freshman arms yesterday at NC State. I think 3 freshmen. So maybe they're saving something to kind of give ECU a different look. I don't know. We'll see when the rotations come out, if they come out tomorrow. Unless they have officially come out, I haven't seen anything.
I highly doubt they've come out.
They haven't yet.
But
we'll probably get a couple TBAs on there though.
But Steven, I want to get your take on that, because of from an ECU standpoint, if they do make that change coming off that Ole Miss win that NC State lost, just kind of how do you think that changes things for ECU? Coming in, just kind of moving him to Saturday, and does that kind of switch up how you play game one?
I think if you're Coastal, you have to look at making the move with Doran. Like you guys said, 5 innings versus Campbell, solid work, and then the 6th inning outing versus Ole Miss, whether it's Saturday or Sunday. Just because, if you look at the numbers for Ross, which he is a 6'7", 210-pound right-hander who had pretty good strikeout numbers at Georgia State. I've not seen him pitch, but I'm just guessing that Williams is going to get more out of that guy eventually. He wouldn't have started the weekend started the season the weekend rotation if they didn't believe in him. So I'm guessing the stuff is there. The execution, obviously not. 18 hits and 8 innings is pretty loud. So he's getting beat around. Maybe they try to bring him out of the bullpen, let him think a little less. But I really do think it wouldn't surprise me if they go Luke Jones, TBA, and then they probably throw Doran one of those days, and then we'll see how it breaks the other way. But I think if you're Coastal, you want to keep ECU guessing, and maybe even for them, like we've seen ECU have good teams, but it's a case where they have to take it literally one game at a time on the mound because they didn't have the starters. And there's nothing wrong with that. You just go with kind of the hot hand day to day. So I think it does maybe change your approach offensively. I think Cliff Godwin is always going to play. I mean, we saw it tonight. I think ideally you don't use Jenkins in a midweek game going in the Coastal, but like the game was hanging in the balance. If the game is hanging in the balance Friday, he's going to go to Jenkins if Norby's running out of gas. I just think we know that at this point. And he takes it one game at a time. I think he's just going to do everything he can to win that specific game and then go from there as it happens.
And on the ECU front, I mean, a guy that he wants through all the time, Joe Webb, had his best performance in a Pirate uniform tonight. He went 4 innings, 2 hits, 1 earned, 5 Ks. So, I mean, Stephen, I think we're going to see him this weekend for sure, especially after this.
Yeah, I think he threw 40-something pitches, so he should be good by Saturday. And then you did 54. Okay, so he probably still should be good by Saturday, maybe Sunday. And then, obviously the good news is, even though it's early in the season, you've gotten pretty good length out of Van Kempen and Weber and Norby, most recently at least. And then they didn't have to throw Moran tonight. He's been really good out of the bullpen. And Tolik going through probably 20 pitches, so he'll be good to go at some point this weekend. And, I think you'll have to at some point go to Ethan Rose, the sidewind and righty. And, I mean, they got options down there. Even like Luke Payne hasn't been great, but he's a lefty who throws in the low 90s. So he can get you an out versus a tough lefty, which, we talked about their lineup. If the game's on the line, you've already used Jenkins, and it's Sunday, maybe you bring in a Luke Payne or a Charlie Hoagland, who's been solid for a freshman as a lefty, if not Moran. So you've got options. I think they can mix and match this thing once they get past Jenkins. It's just maybe you don't feel as great about anybody once you get past your top arms.
And I want to make a point and ask y'all a question before we move into the final segment, which is predictions and bowl predictions, which is going to be fun. We hit on Coastal Carolina's kind of back end of their lineup, Thorndike, Pato, Barthel. I mean, they're at the front end, but just guys that have not really stepped up for them yet. And on the flip side, ECU with Colby Wallace, Jack Vogley hasn't stepped up as much, and just kind of there's so many question marks on the back end of the ECU lineup, Reed. I think this weekend is going to come down to maybe 5 through 9 on each team's lineup card and who is going to have that big hit in the big moment. So just Reed, I want to get your thoughts, then Braxton, wrap it up with Stephen on just kind of, I think the back end of because I think all these teams top of the lineup have guys. They have guys, ECUs, Coastals, guys get on base. But I think, Reed, 5 through 9 is where the match is going to happen this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, the 5 through 9 really in the ECU order. I mean, Walker Barron, he's did a great job. I mean, he's been swinging a hot bat all season. And then I think the pleasant surprise this season offensively has been Matthew Lashley. I mean, I think coming into the season, everyone knew how great of a defender he was. I mean, I certainly didn't expect him to be batting well over 400 at this point in the season. But, vocally, he had the clutch hit against Carolina in that third game before the weather called the game. Colby Wallace, he's starting to come around. I know he hasn't hit a home run yet, but, I mean, you got to feel like it's coming soon. He hit the ball pretty hard.
He had 2 hits tonight.
Yeah, he had 2 hits tonight against Wilmington. He hit the ball pretty hard this past weekend in the Clark LeClaire. Besides the Xavier series where he just really struggled, looked lost at the plate. I mean, he had that clutch hit too against UNC in the Durham game too. So I think the hits are coming. I mean, I never really expected him to bat well over 300 in that lineup, but I mean, like his normal self, he's more of like a 270 hitter. The power will come, hopefully. And then Davin Whitaker, he's been a pleasant surprise offensively for ECU too as well in that lineup.
Braxton.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there, Reed. I think Barron and Lashley have been huge for ECU. If you continue to get good at bats out of them, I think you'll see a lot of success for ECU in this series. And then on the Coastal side, I keep thinking back, like I mentioned earlier, to that game against Campbell where they grinded out 2-out hits. It was 6 or 7 in a row, and I think that is going to be huge this series. I think, especially with the way that these offenses operate, right? Like you think about ECU, they play a lot of small ball, right? Even with 1 out, sometimes they'll bunt a guy over. those 2 out at bats, if you can get 2 out hitting, 2 out hits, I mean, that could be the difference in the series, right? Like if this series goes 2 out of 3 either way, I mean, it could come down to one singular at bat you could point to, and it could be a 2 out hit with a guy on second after, you just moved them over. So yeah, I think you make the right point about 5 through 9. I think that's a great point. And, it's just going to be really fascinating because I think these two teams just have really similar DNAs in terms of kind of the way they play. And obviously they both have really good arms, which we've talked about all night. So, man, I'm excited to watch now just after talking about all this.
I think that's a really good point that you put. I think both of these teams have the same DNA. And Steven, you ready to talk about ECU's back in the lineup one more time this week?
Yeah, I'm still like Vogeley's had good at bats with nothing to show for it. So, like they need somebody to take a stranglehold of the DH and left field spots. And I think, we did see Sabater get a pinch run opportunity tonight. Like Whitaker, I think he's a solid player. I think he can help you against right-handed pitching, but I don't love him against left-handed pitching. He started tonight against left-handed pitching. I don't think he got a hit, at least a starter-wise. But like, I'm just not like that's where you really miss Braxton Trammell. I think they miss him more than I even thought they would initially. He was a switch hitter, projected to play left field or DH, and he's going to be out the whole season. So that's the one area that I'm like, would they be better off going Hakame at second, moving Burris back to left long term, or does someone when Peltier comes back, do they move Jack Herring potentially to DH, put Peltier in right, and go with Sabater, or or Burris in left? I think that would be an elite outfield defensively. So, Peltier's on the way back, Boucher's on the way back as well. So I think once those guys get healthy, you'll have some more options for each role. But right now, I feel great about the top four, and pretty good about the lineup overall with Walker and Lashley hitting. But I don't expect them to hit at this rate all year. So that's why I think they need Vogeley or a left fielder, even if it's Whitaker, to continue to do this or get some out of Hakame at some point.
I agree with you. I think this ECU lineup is going to change tremendously by the time we get to a regional. Cliff Godwin lineups always do, and I think the Coastal Carolina lineup is going to change as well, as Reed Tobin is frozen holding his water bottle on YouTube. If you're watching,
the water bottle's the problem. We figured it out.
The water bottle is the problem. But we are now going to wrap this up and give our series predictions as well as a bowl prediction. Let's do series predictions first, and then we're going to wrap up with our bowl prediction to close off. Braxton, we'll start with you first, sir.
Yeah.
What's your series prediction?
This has been tough to predict. I've kind of gone back and forth. We'll get Tobin back in here. I've kind of gone back and forth on it. Like, I really like that Coastal's at home, obviously, because last year this was in Greenville. Is that right?
Yes.
I just think Coastal at home is going to be really tough to beat. But to be honest with you, looking at these two teams, and obviously Coastal's injured, right? But like I think ECU is a little bit better, and I'm gonna side with them here. I'm gonna go 2-1 ECU. I think Norby gets it done on Friday night. I think he's just lights out. I mean, you saw that last year with 19 Ks against this lineup. And then I really like what they've got with Van Kempen and Jenkins, and I think they're going to steal the first two games. I think they're going to find some big hits from certain guys. I think Linehan will have a big series again. I think Aaron will have a big game as well when he catches. And yeah, I can see Coastal taking the game on Sunday just because you never know what can happen, and maybe they get the washes game on Sunday. But I'm going to go with ECU 2-1.
Reed Tobin?
I think I'm going to go the same way. I'm with Braxton here. I think ECU takes 2 out of 3. I think they win Friday night. I think Norby's going to have a great game again against them. I don't know if it's going to be 19 strikeouts, but I think they'll win Saturday too. I agree with Braxton on that. I think the Van Kippen-Jenkins combo on Saturday has been great. I think both of these games will be a little bit more low scoring like we talked about earlier. And then Sunday, I think Coastal will be coming out hot, not ready, not wanting to get swept on their home field. I mean, the atmosphere is going to be great all weekend down there. And then I think they take Sunday. I still think Weber will pitch a good game. I mean, he's had a great season so far, but I mean, I think Coastal will find a way to win on that Sunday.
Steven?
So my bold prediction in the preseason, I know we got bold predictions coming up, but my bold prediction in the preseason is that ECU would sweep at Coastal. So I have to stick with that prediction.
Okay.
I mean, like realistically, if I was like actually making a pick that I had to put money on, I would never pick like two evenly matched teams, especially on one home field to sweep. But like for the reasons y'all mentioned, I do think it is theoretically possible for ECU to sweep, and it wouldn't shock me if Coastal swept ECU. I mean, this is a prove-it week for ECU. You had your season ended on this field last year. You know, are you a team that is going to be a top 25 caliber team? You know, we saw signs of life against North Carolina that they could potentially get there. To me, they've gotten better since then. Now, if you go on the road, granted a banged-up Coastal team, but if you take this series, I think it sends a little bit of a message. I do have a question for y'all after bowl predictions that I'm just curious to get y'all's take on, so remind me of that. But I do think this is a series ECU finds a way to win, and my official prediction, I got to stick with it, a sweep.
Okay. And my prediction, I'm going to see if I can get redemption here, Stephen. ECU drops the first game on Friday night. Coastal beats them. The ECU wins the next two to win the series 2-1. I'm going to get redemption here. I think Friday night in that environment, that place is going to be absolutely jumping, absolutely rocking. Stephen is going to be in there chugging beer, getting loud. Stone Cold Steve Austin's going to be
Pauly D out in right field.
Oh yeah, Pauly D out in right field.
So did we all go? We all went ECU.
Yes, we did all go ECU. So that means
take Coastal.
So go ahead and take Coastal, people. Go ahead.
I'll go ahead and be the
draft
first to congratulate
Coastal.
them on this.
But I think that first game, the environment's going to be so much. Coastal coming off a loss with NC State and a big win to wrap up their weekend in Texas. Going to be a lot. And then I think Saturday, Ben Kempen and Jenkins are just, you could argue that's one of the best 1-2s in the country in terms of starters and relievers. Then Sunday, I think whoever gets it done. Now, bold predictions for the weekend. It can be a stat. It can be Tobin's beer consumption on Sunday. It can be anything under the sun. Braxton, you first.
Yeah, I'm going to go let's go Colby Thorndike. Obviously, revenge.
That's not a bold prediction at all. He's going to hit 900 on the weekend.
He's a transfer.
I was going to say he's going to have a multi-home run game on Sunday. I think he's just going to find the bat this weekend a little bit. It's his own boys. I mean, you guys know how that happened. Did he have a multi-home run game against them in the regional?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's hit a grand slam.
All right. Yeah, it's going to happen again. Now, it's going to be Sunday. They're going to be down 2-0 in the series, and then Sunday it's all going to happen for Coastal offensively, and I think he's going to find the bat. So we'll go with that. I know it might be a little cliche, but Thorndike multi-home run game.
Reed, before I get to you, Braxton, with all due respect, and for those ECU listeners right now, and for 3 ECU alums, that's not really a bold prediction, to be honest. But
multi-homer game with a specific day, I will give him credit. That's pretty bold.
Sunday. Yeah,
true. All right,
and if it happens, I'm going to clip it.
Okay, Stephen, and then we'll go to Reed.
All right. I hope I'm not taking anybody's. I went with this on the Hoist The Colours podcast on Monday, but we know what Austin Irby did in this ballpark last year. Conway Regional. He's only hit 1 home run to this point. I said multi-home run weekend on the podcast. I'll match Braxton. I'll go multi-homer game. How about on Friday? Austin Irby multi-homer game.
Okay. Reed Tobin.
All right. Well, we'll stick to the home run bold predictions, but I think ECU is going to hit at least 5 home runs this weekend. I know they haven't hit for a lot of power. I know they've hit 7 all season. But you know how this ballpark plays, the warm weather this weekend, I think that plays a factor. You get the ball up in the air with that wind. I mean, the ball can carry in that ballpark, and I think ECU is going to put some good swings on, especially, with some of these guys here with Coastal really struggling out of the gates here to pitch. I think they're in a good spot this weekend.
And for my bold prediction, I'm going to go Blake Barthel, the anchor on that team, anchor in that infield, is going to have 3 multi-hit games. All 3 games he will have multi-hits. I think he kind of comes alive this weekend facing a familiar pitching. I think he comes alive and leads the Chanticleers to a Game 1 victory and then keeps them in it for Game 2 and 3. So
I love how we
those
go,
are
we go low scoring all night, and then we're just like, yeah, multiple.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly. Steven, your question, sir.
Who is this series more important for to win? Because if you look at Coastal's schedule, they play in the Sun Belt, but they miss out. They don't play some of the best teams in the Sun Belt. Like I don't think they play Troy. They do not play.
Southern Miss either. They don't play Southern Miss
They
either.
don't play Southern Miss.
No.
So like, I mean, to me, this is kind of a low key important series for them. And then for ECU, the Americans actually looking pretty good. You've got a split with UNC, which like could be. I mean, it's not a series win, but at least it's a respectable showing. You've got at UTSA, which is ranked here in a couple weeks. You've got Charlotte in a weekend set, which is looking like a pretty good team. USF as well. So who's the series more important for to win?
Braxton, go with you first.
That's tough. You bring up a good point about the schedule. I think you're right. The Sun Belt is very solid. I don't know. Maybe Coastal doesn't run into as many buzzsaws as in that league as maybe ECU does in the American, but I'm going to say Coastal. I think just with their start to the season, I mean, I think I'm a little, like I said, I'm a little bit higher on this ECU team. So I think if you're Coastal right now, you need to prove that you can win a series at home against a really good, regional level team like East Carolina. And I just think that, like, for them to get back on track, if they win this series, I think, it'll kind of raise some eyebrows nationally and be like, okay, they're still here. They're banged up a little bit, but they still have guys, and they're still really, really good at home. And if they end up hosting, it's always been a rough start for both these teams in the host bubble, in the host picture. But I think if Coastal ends up hosting, like, that is such a hard place to go play, and nowadays in regional, and like they're way more likely to get out of that regional if they're playing down there in Springbrooks or whatever it's called. But I'm gonna go Coastal. That's a tough question though. I like it.
I'm going to go Coastal as well. I definitely think, Steven, your point about looking at their schedule, they do not play those. I mean, Reed, Southern Miss is one of the best teams in the entire country, and they're not on their schedule. So if they
They lost to Nicholls State though tonight. So
hey, can't.
But
win them
yes,
all.
they've looked great though. To your point, all season.
Yes. And I just think that for Coastal, like, if you win this series on your home field versus a regional team and you are wounded, and you can say to yourself, hey, we're down our top guys, but we can still hang around and beat you. And I think that versus NC State yesterday, they lost 6-4, hung around with a regional host type team. They beat a ranked Ole Miss. They lost to Texas 8-1, lost to UTSA in a shootout. And I just think that this is a moment for Coastal to say, hey, we're down, but hey, we are still here. And also, let's not forget, Kevin Schnall's in year 2 here. I mean, he took a first-year team to the national championship, which is absolutely unbelievable. And also, I think I said it on our show, like, it is championship DNA is in them. I mean, they know what it takes to get there. They felt what it takes to get there. They've tasted what it takes to get there. And I think this weekend they definitely have that mentality of, hey, it's do or die right now, and we are wounded. And if we can do this without our top guys, we are here to stay. Reed?
Yeah, I mean, really tough question. I mean, both teams make a case that it's very important. I think I'm going to go with ECU, though. Going into the season, I think they were kind of sitting right there on the hosting bubble. I myself thought they would host this year, but I mean, they really need a marquee series win. And Coastal's going to get these guys back, and they're going to get better as the season goes. Yes, Steven said they play at UTSA in a few weeks, but I mean, after this weekend, besides at UTSA, I mean, Charlotte is looking really good. I mean, regional level hosting teams, there's not many left for a weekend series on the ECU schedule.
Memphis?
Well, certainly not.
Maybe
But,
Penny Hardaway can coach him.
Yeah.
I think
Go
it's
ahead,
Reed.
I was just going to add, by the way, potential factor here. Coastal Carolina is currently on spring break. So I wonder now they do get back for Monday. I wonder how many students are going to be there like Friday night, when that typically would be like a pretty electric atmosphere.
That's a good point.
That's a great point, because probably 50% of the student population flew back to Jersey this past weekend. So we'll see if they fly back.
You're going down to Florida for sure.
Oh, yeah. Steven, your take on which series is bigger?
I mean, I guess I think I was looking at, initially I would have said ECU, but as I looked at Coastal's schedule, I think almost like just from the standpoint of, like, I mean, you can make a case for either team, like Reed said. I would go Coastal because I feel like if they lose this on top of losing and not showing great in the Texas thing, now I think they'll get some grace because of the injuries. But like realistically, they would have to dominate the Sun Belt and to me probably win the Sun Belt tournament or at least get a marquee win over a Southern Miss or something in the tournament to have a chance to host, unless they just reel off a ton of wins after this. Because if you lose this series, like you don't really have many marquee chances. It's kind of the same way for ECU, but at least you do have the UTSA series. If you lose 2 out of 3 at Coastal, but then you go on the road to a UTSA team that might be like 20-3 by the time the Pirates play them with their upcoming schedule, I think that'll be a pretty loud statement too. So that's the only reason I give a slight edge to Coastal being a little bit more important to them, maybe.
I agree. This is going to be a phenomenal series. I really wish I could make it out there. I wish we could all be staying at my place. Unfortunately, it's no longer on the market. We could have all been there. We could have all Curveball and Bucks on the Pond under one roof. And Philip.
Would
That
have
would
been
have been
electric.
unbelievable. That would have been an electric weekend. Unfortunately, we cannot make it happen. Steven, before we go, first of all, ECU fans, if you don't know where to find Stephen Igoe, I don't know what you're doing. But plug it for the Coastal fans or other Carolina baseball fans that are listening, where they can find you, sir.
Hoist the Colors, the ECU 24/7 Sports representative. Check it out. Just Google ECU Hoist the Colors, hoistthecolors.net. Also, Twitter at Stephen Igoe. Stephen with a PH. Igoe is spelled Igoe. And if you want to see some takes, I'll drop them every now and then, especially mainly about umpires and referees when it comes to taking shots at those guys. I know they got a tough job, but college umpiring is the worst, man. It's just it pisses me off. But either way, you followed me there. But I appreciate you guys for having me, man.
Yeah, it was a great show. And lastly, before we go, Steven, who's winning the World Baseball Classic right now on the spot?
I picked U.S. today on the show, so I got to go with that. But I'm excited to watch Dominican Republic.
Okay. All right. We will talk about that on our shows as we go forward. Braxton, did you want to give your pick? You can give it right now if you want to, sir.
I'm going to go USA, and it's actually the first game actually just started. So we are here. World Baseball Classic 2026. I'm going to go USA.
USA.
I'm going to go in the Toronto Blue Jays hoodie. Hold on. First
Don't
of all,
pick Canada to win the damn
First of all,
World Baseball Classic.
I'm not picking Canada. I'm going to go Japan to win the World Baseball Classic. Okay. I'm going to go the 2029 LA Dodgers roster to win the World Baseball Classic. So that will wrap it up tonight, boys. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for listening. Follow us at Carolina Curve BB. Looking forward to a great series, fellas. I will see you, Steven. We will see you soon. See you boys tonight on Curveball Combos. Good night.